Good morning. Welcome to Hobby Evolution episode 332. And I believe I'm getting close to the 1 year anniversary of Hobby Evolution. I think it was at some point here in July, and I've skipped a bunch of days. It was easy to figure out because I had only skipped like 1 day, 2 days, and then all of a sudden back in the office, traveling again, and boom, I'm not daily anymore. So pretty sure it's getting close. If not, we've passed. I'll have to go back. I've said this multiple times. I got to go back and look to see when my first episode was, but pretty sure I know it's in July, and it's probably right around this point in time. So I've got that weird. I'm sensing that my chat isn't working. And I noticed that when I did the setup, and that's unfortunate because it's the only reason I go live is to chat. So for some reason, I don't think the chat's working. That sucks. Zach just texted me. He said the chat's working on his end. I can't see it, so that sucks for me. Let me see. Pop out chat. Oh, I've got the Ninja. Whoa, this is weird. So I've never had this happen. So I've got the Ninja. I've got the Ninja where the chat box is next to the video, but then I hit chat box pop out, and it's working. So I see Zach and Herman are with me. So let me see if I can move this, because right now it's like covering the video part. What if I do this? Do this. It's not letting me move. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now I have the chat pop out. Perfect. Awesome. So I can see you. I can see the chat. Thank you, Zach. Herman asks, what do you think about the Braves trying to acquire Kris Bryant? I haven't read that story. But yeah, I know a lot of people are in the mix. I've heard, I got a text alert last night from a story that the Mets are serious. Now, the Mets have been rumored, like back in the day, were rumored in Kris Bryant talks like a year ago or 2 years ago. So that'd be interesting if the Braves, because the Braves have, I'm trying to think of the Mets farm system in terms of, now I'm looking at it, it's like, I think it's just, I just have to come to the realization that Kris Bryant is going to be no longer a Cub, probably in 2 weeks. Braves, Cardinals, Giants that I know of. Cardinals I would absolutely hate because I hate the Cardinals. But I don't think the Cubs and Cardinals, I don't think the Cubs would deal Kris Bryant to the Cardinals. I just, there's some things that you don't do. I wouldn't mind Bryant to the White Sox. I could do that. The Cubs seem to be more open to trading with the White Sox than the White Sox seem to be trading with the Cubs. But that should change after the Jose Quintana deal. You get you get Eloy Jimenez and Dylan Cease for Jose Quintana. That actually, right now, if you're looking at the comparison right now today, that's basically an equal trade, because Cease and Eloy have contributed a little bit. Quintana contributed a little bit, even though he's no longer with the Cubs. If you're just looking at from, WAR, or, neither of them have won much, if anything. So if you look at it today, now, yes, the Cubs, their end of the deal is done because he's gone. He's in the Angels. But Cease and Eloy, obviously, they're young and they have, a long career ahead of them, most likely in a White Sox uniform. So when it's all said and done, I think the White Sox will be big winners in that trade. But you can never, that's just, an assumption, a prediction, and who knows how that will end up. Herman says Braves out offered them both. That doesn't surprise me at all, because the Braves have a really nice farm system. And yeah, I would like to trade. I would like to trade with the Braves. I would like to trade with the even though the Padres gave up, they made 2 trades for Yu Darvish and Blake Snell. They still have a pretty loaded farm system. There's some guys there that I like. Braves have a really good farm system. Who else is Tampa Bay Rays? So yeah, there's some teams out there that I would like to, just because you can get into the farm system and the prospects. And sometimes when you look at top heavy teams with top heavy prospects, some of the guys in the, toward the bottom of the organizational rankings get overlooked from like us lay people, not the actual scouts, but from us lay people, because, it's like, oh, the Tampa Bay Rays have Wander Franco and, whoever the Padres have, who's their number one prospect. CJ Abrams is up there, and you kind of overlook the others. So Brian for Aaron Rodgers. So the Cubs and Braves did make a deal yesterday. Jock Peterson is the first to go, traded to the Braves for Bryce Ball, which you got something for Jock Peterson. I was kind of meh, like the whole Jock Peterson era, all 4 months of it, whatever it is all meh. Now, in hindsight, when the deal was made, now everybody's going to come out and say, oh, we shouldn't have got rid of Schwarber and Peterson. Now, in hindsight, they were like the same player. So it was kind of like, and I don't know what Schwarber, the offer, it's probably out there by now, but what was the deal for Schwarber to re-sign, and obviously we know the details of Jock Peterson, but it's like Schwarber's been there. He's a fan favorite. Why let him walk and then just sign another guy that's basically Kyle Schwarber? And Kyle Schwarber's been much better than Jock Peterson this year. We didn't really know that that was going to happen. So in hindsight, being 2020, yeah, that was crappy that you let Schwarber walk, sign Jock Peterson. I was meh. Like, yeah, I was a Schwarber fan, but it's like, eh. And then the Jock Peterson trade for Bryce Ball, and people, I love when people like just lamb-based trades and, oh, this guy's hitting 200 in low A. He's 22, 23 years old. Well, you know what? You got something, and the Cubs aren't going to compete, so you might as well get something. So that trade was, that's kind of how I think of, that's kind of like, that's my, if I had a slogan for my Cubs outlook on 2021, it's meh. Wait till next year, right? Oh man, we were so spoiled the last 5 years. Speaking of Cubs, obviously that's what I talk about most of the time. I had a great hobby conversation last night. So, talking Cubs history. So, the conversation I had was with a longtime Chicago sports talk radio host. He was on The Score for several years, was on ESPN radio. I didn't tell him this, but I listened to him when I was a kid. So I was connected through a mutual friend of ours. And so he has a couple of old sets, vintage sets that he's looking to get rid of. And he needs somebody to assist because he's been out of the hobby for a long time. And so that's how we were connected. So we had a great conversation, half an hour, 45 minutes last night. So he starts off, he kind of tells me his backstory, which was amazing. So he grew up in the 50s and collected cards, but he said, I wasn't one of those kids that put them in the bike spokes. Yeah, I wasn't throwing them against the wall. I enjoyed the cards and I saved them and I kept them in good condition. Which is kind of a rarity for kids in the 50s. They threw them against the wall and traded and put them in their bike spokes. We all know that story. So he actually saved them, kept them in nice condition. And so he collected, I think he said he started in 56, 57, somewhere in there. So he was collecting 56, 57, 58, 59 into the early 60s. And then once he got into high school and college, like most of us, just kind of set it to the side, still had them. They were stuffed away. Few decades later, he had this massive collection of like basically untouched 50s and 60s fast forward to the 90s, he had a card shop that I don't think is open anymore, but he had developed a relationship with this card shop owner. He helped him make a deal at the National. He actually sold his collection to Mr. Mint in the early 90s for just under $20,000. So now if he had those same cards and he goes, I know what I would have, I know what I could be able to sell for those today. But you know what? $20,000 was a lot of money, and no regrets. So he was talking about the 59 Bob Clemente card and just all the cards he had that it was just like, wow, awesome story. Not Hanley. No, it was not Hanley. I'll tell you, he was one of the original Score broadcasters, but he was there for a decade and a half, probably. Actually, decade. I'm trying to think. Score went on the air in 90, so yeah, probably more than 15 years. So he told me that story. He goes, my mom passed away last year and was cleaning out her house, and in her attic there were 2 boxes that I found. They were from if you're familiar with Renata Galasso. Renata Galasso was actually a woman. That was her name. Big time dealer, one of the first dealers to sell cards. Had their own, and I actually have. Well, I did have a couple. I have a couple of the magazines they put out. I think it was called Sports Cards or Baseball Card Magazine. Not Baseball Card Magazine, but something. But Renata Galasso had a magazine, price guide, starting in like the early 1983 was the first issue. But their company began in like the early 70s. Actually, I think she was in college when they started the company. Her and her husband. So he had a 1975 Topps baseball complete set still in the Renata Galasso box. It had been unopened, and then a 1978 Topps complete set still unopened from 1978 complete set from the dealer Renata Galasso. So he's looking to sell it, and I said, we were talking about grading, and I said, it's, even though they haven't been touched, it's all about the printing, and we're going back to the 70s, so there could be, it could be off center. But since it's unopened, there's a big surge in unopened. So we were just I was going through all these scenarios that, the 75 is, is a more valuable set because of the rookies, Robin Yount and George Brett, but 78, less valuable, but it's been unopened. So there may be a niche market for that. So we're just going over the scenario. So we're actually going to meet up at the National in a couple weeks, and I have a couple contacts that may be interested and just kind of broker the deal for these. And it's not going to be, it's, not much, but it's kind of a unique story, and it was fun. So he's talking about he still has a bunch of Cubs memorabilia. He has his dad collected Chicago Cubs News, which was basically a newsletter that began in the 30s, and it ran from the 30s into the 50s. And he has the complete run minus one issue. He's like, I'm missing one issue, and I don't know, what the deal is with that, but I have all but one of the issues, the complete run from the 1937 to 1954 or something. So we were talking about that. I'm like, wow, I am not into really print publications in my collection, unless it's like super rare. I love contracts. I love personal items. I've got a scrapbook one of the things I'm kicking myself is a scrapbook that I sold. Fortunately, I actually sold 2 pieces of it off. So I had bought back in the 90s, Yahoo had auctions. So Yahoo was competing with eBay in the auction space in the mid to late 90s. And I had a Yahoo auctions account, and I bought this from an old collector who probably picked it up in a estate sale, Vern Morgan, who played a handful of games in 1955 for the Chicago Cubs, but he was in the system for a decade. And it was a scrapbook, and it had all of his contracts, his minor league contracts, his Cubs, his Chicago Cubs contract. It had pictures from in his uniform, like taken in his farmhouse driveway. What else was in there? Just letters from the Cubs on Cubs letterhead signed by the president about coming to spring training. There was one that was really unique that he was going to be featured in one of the Cubs yearbooks, so they wanted him to sign a piece of paper so they could transpose or whatever, put the autograph into the yearbook. So just a bunch of unique stuff. So I bought it for like $10, and this is like 1998. Bought it for like $10. I held on to it for a long time. I love unique stuff like that. And then, I was telling I had a boss whose father-in-law was a diehard Cubs fan, old school guy. And he like always wanted to buy the contract from me, and I didn't sell. Finally, I was kind of like purging my collection. I said, I'll sell it to you. So this piece, I sold just the contract, and he like made like a double-sided, he was like a woodworker. So he made a double-sided frame for it so you could, see both sides of the contract. So it went to like a real Cubs collector that appreciated it, went into a custom piece of woodwork. So, no regrets on that sale. The other scrapbook, I regret actually getting rid of it, but it went to a great place because it actually went to a historical society. So Vern Morgan was from Richmond, Virginia, and it was either the Richmond Historical Society or a museum. They actually bought it. I sold it on eBay. They bought it on eBay. So it went to an actual museum where it's going to be preserved. And so, no regrets for that sale. It's one of those things where it's like, I wish I would have had that, but I do have another unique item. I've shown it off before, the letters to home, which is actually, I think, even cooler because I like the psychology of it, what the actual player is thinking as he writes these letters to mom and dad. Anyway, off on a tangent. So the Chicago Cubs news. So I like unique stuff. He's got all the Chicago Cubs news. So he's like, if I'm going to sell them eventually. So, I'll give you first crack at it. So I'm not super into print paper publications, but something like that, especially since it's the whole run, I at least have a little interest in possibly pursuing. So we got to talking about like programs and scorecards. And so he's telling, and I do have, while I don't like print publications, I do like scorecards, more so if they're filled out. Now, many people want pristine, mint condition, magazines, scorecards, programs, but I like, just kind of like with my vintage cards, I want to see that is an old aged card, authentic, but aged and worn. So I have some scorecards. My oldest that I'm going to show off here is from 1948. Filled out. I love that aspect of it, the history behind it. So he's telling me, so now the Cubs have programs, and I'll show it off here. Very colorful, and just unique. And then the back, you've got these advertisements. This is for Oscar Mayer and Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. So just the art is just really cool. This is from 1948. So he's telling me this art was made by for all the programs from the 40s into the 70s, I think, was done by a man named Otis Shepard. So Otis Shepard was the artist that did these programs. You can actually see right here on the back. So this is the advertising. Is it? Oh yeah, you can see right up there in that corner. It says Shepard. Otis Shepard was the artist for Wrigley Gum. Of course, the Wrigleys owned the Chicago Cubs. So Otis Shepard was the artist, and I guess the story goes that Mr. Wrigley needed something done for the program. He wanted some artwork done for the program. They were going to the printing presses So he called Otis, called his artist for the gum company, and said, Otis, I need you to do something for the I don't know if it was the media guide or the game programs or what, but I need you to do some artwork for the Cubs. And that was born. And so all of the really cool, if you're familiar with, like I said, this is from 1948, and all of them, 40s, 50s, 60s, into the 70s, really cool artwork. And that's what, kind of got that story. I'm like, I loved the colors really pop. It's just unique. It's it's almost Andy Warhol. It's like pop art almost. So it's really cool. So I wanted to dig that out just so I could show off, because my visual description doesn't do it justice. So this actually has this 1940. I think I bought this actually at a garage sale. So it's the Cubs were playing New York. Leo DeRocher was the manager of New York at that time, the Giants. So Rigney was at second. Whitey Lockman, who later was the manager of the Cubs, he was batting second and playing center field. Gordon at third. Mize was at first. Marshall in right field. And that might be future Cubs manager Jim Marshall. I'll have to look that up. Marshall in right field for the Giants. Looks like Miller was scratched for Thompson in left. Wes Westrom, I remember that name. He was the catcher, scratched for Cooper. Kerr was at shortstop. Let's see, 34. The pitcher was Trinkle. I don't know that name. So the Cubs had Emil Verbin leading off and playing second base. Hal Jeffcoat was in, let's see, was that left field? Must have been left field. Phil Cavaretta started at first. Andy Pafko was the cleanup hitter, batting fourth and playing third base. Bill Nicholson was in right field. Peanuts Lowry was in center. Bob Sheffing, who was either manager or one of the coaches, he was catching. And Roy Smalley was at shortstop. Starting pitcher was Meyer. I'm trying to think of which Meyer that would have been. Drawing a blank. So very cool. This is the scorecard. As you see, it's filled out, and whoever did it very well. I'm a terrible scorekeeper. Thank goodness for Gamecast or whatever that app is. And the few times that I have had to keep score. So wanted to share, very cool story. We were on the phone for 30 to 45 minutes. So I'm looking forward to actually meeting up in person and talking Cubs and sports collectibles. Will be a good time. So that's what I had for today. I ran a bunch of eBay auctions last night. Somebody mentioned I didn't think you liked eBay auctions. I don't. This is really weird. Last night I had I think I ran like 40 or 50 auctions, and it was kind of like secondary stuff. I didn't think it would do very well. Actually outperformed my auctions that ended last week, which is surprising. Maybe it was still too close to the holiday. But my auctions did pretty well last night. I listed a couple things that end next week, but I didn't really put too much time into it. So just trying to keep that cash flow moving. We talked about cash flow yesterday's or Wednesday's episode. So talked about cash flow and what I'm doing. I'm trying to hold off on buying. Tomorrow is my bike ride to New Glarus, so that'll keep me away from baseball cards for the day. And then next week is going to be the real test. Next Saturday, a week from tomorrow, is the Madison Card Show, Sheraton Hotel, Madison, Wisconsin. I always buy at my show, so I'm going to try not to this time because just a few days later, I'll be at the National for 5 days. So trying to hold off on any buying here over the next week and a half to 2 weeks. What's up, Mark? Good morning. Mark, I talked about, I know Mark today was just kind of up your alley. I was talking vintage programs, and I told the story behind the artwork of the old Cubs programs. This is from 1948. So if you have a chance, go back and check it out. Had a great phone conversation last night with a guy that we talked old Cubs stuff. So that's what I had for today. I will go live tomorrow morning before my bike ride. I'm going to try to hammer out some packages early in the morning, and then I'm going to try to hit the road at 10. So I can do lunch going to New Glarus. It's going to be about a 26 to 28 mile one-way ride. So looking at 60 miles total. It is an e-bike. I will put the asterisk next to my 60-mile bike ride. Yes, it has a motor, but I do pedal a lot. I'll probably pedal 30 of the 60 miles. So that's still for an out of shape guy like me, that's a lot. My legs will be sore, that's for sure. So that's what I had for today. Thanks for tuning in. I will go live tomorrow, probably between 7 and 8 tomorrow is my goal. A little earlier than usual on a Saturday, just because I want to speed up for heading out at 10. So that's what I had. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great Friday, and we'll talk tomorrow.